those things. But the execution of all these things is important. So the next step for you is to position your business very well, that your product and services would be able to implement the use of this business plan and reviewed. Like I said, business plans have to be reviewed again and again and again because you're growing and our life is like in motions. Just like as our businesses, you started small with just 3 employees. Now you move to 10 employees. You go back to the business plan, review what has increased in terms of the revenue. Has it increased in terms of the production capacity? Has it increased? Try to edit that in the business plan. You've added new team members. Try to add it to that business plan. I mean, just keep reviewing, improving, so that it reflects the stage where you are each point in time. Don't forget that it's a roadmap. If I'm journeying in the desert, I would want to go with a map to show me where to turn to, how to turn to, what to do. So it's not just a document to do and just place somewhere. No, it's a document to do and to keep using for execution. Also, for you to then be able to properly position. So right now, there are a lot of climate businesses or climate-driven businesses that are changing narratives. And that has also then emerged a new climate investment industry. So we have a lot of VC firms, private equity firms, impact investors that are now beginning to care about, oh, our climate is important, that we protect them. And we want to make money and also make impact or environmental impact. So your ESG is just like it gives them a door, but it's not just the door, it opens the door. So a door can be pegged, but not opened. The ESG plan just gives you an open door. So what is ESG? Environmental and social governance, showing that you have a plan in place for that. Says one thing to an investor. I want to listen to you. That's what it tells an investor, especially an investor that is climate driven, that cares about climate adaptation businesses. They want to say, oh, I am interested in the solution because it aligns with our vision as a company or as a firm. And we want to know how we can work together to get it done. So having your ESG and making sure that you are putting it out there is very important. So how do you properly position your business to make sure that you are known for it? That's when you are pushing it out there and you're sharing the narratives. So, and don't forget that your environmental part of your business would show that you are solving a problem environmental, but there's also a social part. So is there a gender lens? In the point where we are looking at women empowerment, is there a gender lens to your business? Is your team balanced enough, especially your management team? Do you have women, men, on a balanced team? In terms of your employee ratio, what is meant to women? You are showing that as part of your social impact as well. And as much as, okay, in terms of your ESG policy, what does it look like? In terms of your impact so far, how many methane gas have you reduced in the atmosphere? How many CO2 emissions? How many reduction in different kind of emissions have you been able to to build as a company, maybe with your MVP or with your existing business, or that you hope that you will build as you build your company along? When you pushing that environmental narrative so much, you're actually positioning yourself. So there's investment, and there's some VC firms invest in, for example, fintech, health tech, but some in climate tech. So you have already positioned yourself. You've niched it down to the people that are really interested in you. I am solving the problem for the climate. And then you position it, create policies around it to make sure that you get that attention that is needed from the investors that you need it. And the way you are reducing waste is a backward integration, is that the way you're making renewable energy, you are making eco-friendly, recyclability, reusability, all those narratives should be bring into scale. And then when you're also thinking of the scale is also part of your implementation plan, and it should be very critical. You ensure that you're able to scale your operations and growth strategies with the interest that the investor have in mind. And what's the interest again? Opportunity to 10 times or 100 times the investment that I've given to you. I mean, impact is good, but that is the most important to me. So the scalability of your business. And while these solutions are good, and while they also have their environmental and social impact, is it scalable? Is it movable? If I'll scale, what are the best way to scale. Some are just tech-driven tech businesses, so it's very easy to scale. It's high growth. You can replicate in almost 10 countries within 2 months, within 2 years, within 6 months. But some are really more traditional business. They need to scale because they are capital intensive, and they will need a lot of it's not there has to be a lot of equipment and the likes of that. But how do you also plan to scale that? Because regardless of anything, an investor cares about how you would scale. So are you ready to partner with other people? Are you ready to run a franchising model in Kenya, in Rwanda, in other parts of the world where the solution is needed? So your scalability is also part of your implementation that you bring into the perspective when you are running your business plan. Now, finally, it's the positioning. So the positioning is very important when you are aiming to get investment. So engaging in networking events, making sure that you make connections or requesting from connections from friends to just have a very soft introduction of you to VC firms or equity investors. It's very much helpful. That network. So somebody said it's very much easy to get investment for people that already know you, and which is the truth. They might know you electronically, maybe on social media, but when you are able to also present yourself, going to meetings, going to conferences where you know your target investors are, would help you to introduce yourself, take a handshake, make a quick elevator pitch, get their interest, get the business card, and send them an email nothing less than 24 hours after you've met with them. A text, an email, keep yourself top of mind to them. Making sure that you create that connection that you would get investment for is a very good way to position yourself to get investment. And then developing your pitch. So your pitch is not a pitch deck and then I meet you, I shake hands with you, and I want to run everything that is on my mind within 10 minutes. No, I just want to give you something that, captivates you, catches your attention to say, oh, this is interesting. A one-liner, a two-liner as an elevator pitch to show that, okay, there's value to what this business would be, and there's growth potential. And I might be interested to, I want you to tell me more as an investor. I want you to send me your pitch deck. I just want to, I want to know and see if this is what we can work with. So you want to have your pitch developed. You want to have it offhand. Once you're working by anybody, you want to be able to, tell them almost like in a second, like just say what your business is all about, how you to solve a problem, and how I fit in as an investor. So being able to then position yourself to know what to say when you meet someone, whether guarded or unguarded, is a very good way to position yourself. Another way is impact. You must be able to measure the impact your business is bringing to the table. Measuring the impact will then help you to articulate it. An impact that is not measured is as good as you're not making impact. And there's a saying, anything that cannot be measured cannot be judged. If it cannot be judged, it cannot grow. So if you cannot measure the impact, you can't even judge if you're making the real impact which you've set up as an ecopreneur to do in your industry. So measuring it and then articulating it, making sure that you express. So when people say, okay, what impact have you made in reducing CO2? So it's not we've reduced CO2 emissions in the atmosphere. No, we've reduced CO2 emissions by 9,378 tons within the last 2 years. Give your figures, measure and know the figures that you've done in terms of impact. We've created employment for 25 women and 15 youths. Be able to measure it. The measurement aligns with an impact investor to say, okay, this thing actually works with, being part of our portfolio, because even our donors or our limited partners also are interested in this kind of impact. So being able to properly articulate what you're doing and how you're solving, we've reduced 1,300 kilowatts per hour for energy. We've created energy efficiency by 30% within this industry. Those are the kind of articulation that you need to go along with running the impact when you position yourself to get investment. And then lastly, you continue to learn. Staying on top of the game is very critical in the startup world. you want to have industry trends, and you want to be in the middle of it. You updated about industry trends. You know what policies are being introduced. So there was a policy introduced some 2 days ago about plastic use, or non reusable non-reusable plastics or non-reusable packaging materials within the ministries and agencies of the government. How does this policy affect you as a business? Where do you see yourself fitting in curating a solution? What does the policy tell me? It tells me that in the next few years, that might be a ratification of something related, even across the nation. So where do I pitch in? Where do I come in? How do I be a part of it? And how do I bring this into my business plan, bring it into my pitch deck, to be able to tell investors that I'm even ready for the opportunities that this industry will prefer. You get, so being able to continuously learn and grow is very important, and being able to then do your research about the kind of investors that are interested. Not every investors are interested in climate driven businesses. There's some that they understand the fact that it's urgent. Climate change is real and it's affecting people, but it's not yet part of their values. So if it's not part of their values, it definitely wouldn't be part of their goals and objectives. And so making sure you're talking to the right investors is very critical. Now, understand that there are a lot of landscape when it comes to investment. And there are also types of investors, like as I was saying earlier. There are private equity, there are impact investors, there are venture capital firms. If you're looking at that equity capital, that direction shows that you need to care about the KPIs. What are the key performance indicators for the successes that you want to present for your investment portfolio? And then what are the key impact metrics? Because an impact investor will also say, okay, good, you've been able to increase your revenue, you're growing at 150% year on year, but I also want to know how many methane gas emission have you been able to capture, or have you been able to reduce in terms of emissions? So those are also the metrics that you need to track and be ready to present as you go along securing such investment. And like I always say all the time, while we always try to focus so much on private equity investment, in fact, most people think about the venture capital, VC. We want VC funded because it then makes you to be in the news. You're on Tech Cabal, they are writing about you, and then you feel like, yeah, you made success, which necessarily doesn't equate success. But because you're out there, you feel that that's the tone of success that you want to release to your company, then there's the mismatch. But there are other sources of funding. I mean, there are a lot of sources of funding, and what I know that is most important, and I always encourage, is the customer funds is the best and easiest sources of financing. If your customers are willing to pay for your product, get it. I mean, when you put your attention into customers are not buying, what would make them buy, and how much are they willing to buy for? Does this number work? Can we build something that can be profitable? That customer, that revenue you're generating and retaining that earning back into the business can happen on a daily basis, can happen on a monthly basis, compared to when you're raising an investment. If you're raising an investment, you're working with 6 months, sometimes can be as much as 8 to 12 months to be able to secure a proper round of investment. It takes that long. So, but then if you already have paying customers, focus on the paying customers. It doesn't mean that you're not still chasing other sources of financing, but you're focusing on the lowest hanging fruit. Customers are paying for the service, and we're getting, some profit. It's profitable, and we're able to retain this profit into this business. We are very, we spend meticulously. We focus on things that matter. That's a way to get funding. Another is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, especially for eco businesses that are climate driven, would be able to get, based on interest that you're able to spur with how you present your solution on the crowdfunding platform. You get people to, say that I want to be a part of something, maybe because drought affected some people in the past, and they knew how that story felt. So when you're telling the story of drought and how you're solving drought in your community, they're interested to say that I will support this because I do not want what happened in the past to happen to this community. And I see that a very young, vibrant entrepreneur is bringing this to the table. I mean, why not? So you see a lot of people that are interested to fund your business, when you put yourself on crowdfunding platform, it's another way to get financing that you needed to grow your business. Another is grants. Grants, they call it free money, but it is not it is to be properly managed to make sure that you use it to grow. It's free money at like the cheapest form of financing, actually, if you look at it, because you're not paying anything back. Also, crowdfunding, you're not paying anything back. But grants, because you also get beyond just money with grants, you get into accelerator programs that can help you to get support organization, train you on how to properly use the funds that you're being given. You get connected to industry experts, to mentors, you are being handheld, you're even introduced to some market access. So it actually can be exponential, but it's also limited. And ways to get grants, well, I always tell people, please do not stop trying to put yourself out there to apply for grants. It is a cheap financing. I mean, these financings, you can go through a number of them at the same time. And grants also can also give you the media attention that you need, give you the exposure that you need, to get it. And how do you get grants? Make sure that you read so much. So I've seen situations where people come to me and say, okay, if you've won a number of grants, I want you to mentor me about on how to get grants or how to apply for this kind of funding. And I say, you don't start with applying for the funding. When you see a call for application, you go through to their website, check the organization that is in charge, and what do they want to achieve with the grant. If what they want to achieve doesn't align with what you're applying for, or when you put in your application, but it doesn't align with what they want to, the kind of impact they want to project, then you will not be, you might not make it. So make sure that you properly understand what the donors want and what the managing organization wants. So donors can be, for example, African Development Bank, and then the managing organization can be Kenya Center for Innovation and Climate Innovation, or Nigerian Climate Innovation Center, But when you go to NCIC, the Nigerian Climate Innovation Center, and you see that, okay, they are managing this grant and they're calling for application, and they say these are the goals and objectives of this grant application. How does my business align with it? And how would I communicate it in a way that they will see the alignment? And most importantly, their donors, which is African Development Bank, how do they perceive that the impact that whatever my business, if selected, would help them to also be able to, have a bragging rights to say that they have impacted these people, they've done this, they've done that. There has to be an alignment within that whole support chain that you needed for grants. So, and because it's very competitive, that's why you properly need to look into the objectives and the goals of the grant. What does the grant stand to achieve? And also, these grants, when it comes to also their reporting, how well are you able to do reporting? Do you have a team? Do you have an M&E consultant? All of that. How do you see that you position yourself well to be able to get it? As well as debt capital. Debt capital is for business that is profitable. Debt capital can be helpful, especially concessional loans that are they take a longer period of time. The tenure are very, very, it's like patient capital. The tenure takes long time. There's moratorium period, and their interest rate is very, very considerate. So those are the kind of ways that you can put yourself out there. And then as well as then the equity capital that can come from VC firms or private equity, where they take some stakes in the business and they give you the funding for you to give them the returns that they want or that they hope for. The last one is the revenue finance. The revenue finance is pretty new and not common because it's like profit sharing. So it's a non-dilutive kind of funding that you do not need to give out equity, but they're giving money. They will get it back, but they will get it because they'll be sharing interest from profit from the revenue that you generate, or from your net profit or your gross profit, depending on how you've curated your contract with that organization. So these are the different ways to get funding to be able to grow your business. But most importantly, if there's any advice, make sure that you focus on the sustainability and the profitability of your business. Whether you're getting free capital, cheap capital, easy capital, or whatever out of these sources of financing is, make sure that you run a sustainable business that is profitable and that can scale in its own self by the time growth is needed. And also make sure that there's market research to keep identifying opportunities and reading about opportunities that would help grow your business. And also being investment ready. Being investment ready is like another session in itself. You know, it talks about all the legal intricacies and all the financial responsibilities that comes with trying to raise investment, especially when it's equity capital that you're raising. So you are talking about what's your cap table like, you're talking about audited statement, what is your data room, do you have it ready, you're talking about your different things, what's the problem and solution analysis. I mean, everything that has to do with somebody opening your data room and seeing everything that would, can implicate your company, or can be for good or for or the other way around. So you need the legal team when it comes to cap table, and you need finance team for valuation. Could be fractional CFO, could be any kind of support organization to help you put those things together before you are then presented to investors. They always say that opportunities, preparation precedes opportunities. So when we are much prepared for the kind of investment we need, it will then be very easy to attract that kind of investment. That will be all from me. Thank you very much for listening. I don't know if Tiffany, I'm handing over to you now.
All right. Thank you very much, Ma. That was so much clarity on how we can have can you hear me, Ma?
Yes, I can.
Yes. So that's like so much clarity on understanding, positioning our eco businesses for investment opportunity. I mean, you've dived into how we can access grants, you dive into how we can, network, how we can pitch our eco brand to like potential investors and all of that, how we can have access to debt capital and other funding opportunity. We are truly grateful for that. But we'll be bringing in Miss Billy Keys. So after our section, we'll be having a Q&A. I believe our members are very filled up because I'm sure they will have so much questions to ask regarding, the whole financial investment aspect. But before we bring Mrs. Billy Keys on board, I would like to, share Miss Billy Keys' profile. So Miss Billy Keys is the General Manager of the Lagos State Resident Registration Agency, LASRA. She is the founder of the West Cycler Nigeria Limited, a for-profit social enterprise that promotes environmental sustainability, a social welfare and community health by utilizing low-cost cargo bicycle called West Cycler to provide convenient recycling service to households in decently polluted low-income neighborhoods. West Cycler motivates families to recycle through an SMS-based incentive program that rewards them with points for consistent recycling that can be converted to cell phone minutes, basic food item, and household goods. Under our leadership, West Cycler has established partnership with the Lagos State Governor and the Lagos Waste Management Authority, LOMA, and since 2012 has registered over 23 households, diverted over 13,000 metric tons of recyclable materials from landfill into productive reuse in Lagos, Nigeria. West Cycler has also created over 200 jobs and 15 waste businesses. So, I mean, we already know that Ms. Balikis is really going to give us so much insight on how we can position our business for investment opportunity. Not only that she's the general manager for LASRA, but she's very much into sustainability and recycling. So I'm very sure all of us here, we are very open-minded to what she has for us today. Ms. Bilkis, I don't know if she can hear me, but right now she can come on board to...
I can hear you. Okay,
So Ms.
fantastic.
Bilkis, yes.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma, we can. Let's get a thumbs up if
Okay.
we can hear Ms. Bilkis, please.
Good afternoon. Greetings from Brussels. I'm in Belgium on a attending an event, but I just had to be a part of this. So I'm really looking forward to sharing my experiences with you. Just trying to figure out how to share my screen. So I really don't know how to do that because I don't see.
Ma, you can send me the documents. I can do that for my end, ma.
Okay, just a second. Let me quickly send it to you on WhatsApp. Okay, I've done that. Um, Before I start, I just wanted to commend the speaker before me for very interesting presentation. It really was. I actually saw that it was very, very comprehensive. So well done for that. So while we wait, I'll just tell you a little bit of background on Recyclers. Recyclers actually is now 12 years old. It's going to be 12 years in August. And it started from, a class I took while I was in business school. I lived, at that point, I had lived in the US for about 13 years. And, I went back to business school because I wanted to be a manager. So I thought when I was going to school that I was going to just be a manager and stay in the US. But I took a class while I was at school, and they were talking about how Africa is very poor, how this and that. And, as someone that's very proud of Africa, I started talking in class that no, we're not poor, we're this. And then when they, responded to me with their data and their facts, I had to keep quiet. Also, during the class, people would come from various parts of Africa to share some of the things that they were doing. So we had some of our colleagues from Kenya, from all over Africa, and a lot of them were not from Africa. We had Indians, we had Americans. So there were not a lot of people that were in Africa that were doing things. So I actually felt a little bit ashamed that, what's going on. And I decided to just join a group around waste management. So, that class, you basically joined different groups based on the topics. And I joined the group on waste management. And, I was just interested. You know, I remember the first time they had a meeting about recyclers, what was to become recyclers, because at that point it wasn't recyclers, it was just an idea. And the people that were at the group were talking about how they would, they're going to go to Africa and tell people to give trash. And then they will tell them in exchange for their trash, they will give them water. And I remember walking up to them and saying, no, the African people, they don't need water. There's water in Africa. Don't worry. Actually give them a chance to decide for themselves what they want. So I was always arguing with them and telling them what I thought was right. So at that point, because I was very, very vocal, I had to back my mouth up by actually coming for meetings and talking. And then at some point, it just became something that sucked me in. So there was a period from September when we started in the class till May, June when we graduated, where that was actually the birth period of recyclers. Have you seen my slides, Tife? No? Okay. I'll
Yes, I
keep talking.
have. I'm trying to hear it
Okay, you're
on
trying to
the.
put it on. Okay.
Yeah.
I can keep talking. I don't mind. Okay, so there was a period where, and MIT, I went to MIT. There is a very strong entrepreneurial ecosystem where there's a lot of competitions, a lot of things are going on. So very intense. So from that period of September till May, we were just applying for different competitions and we're able to raise money, the initial money that we used to start Recyclers. Um, and I really wanted to, while I was preparing for this
Can
session,
you
I
see
wanted
my
to make
screen
it
here?
very much. Yes, I can see.
Okay.
So I wanted to make it a very
So,
very
ma'am,
much about. Okay, good. Thank you so much. So can you
yeah.
please go to the second slide? Thank you. So I wanted to make it very much about my experience at WeCyclers and kind of walk you through the experience. So the first thing was, when we were creating the idea, the major issue was around plastic. There's other kinds of waste, but plastic is one that you see everywhere. And we just wanted to kind of come up with a solution that would help people to solve this plastic problem. So when you look at the numbers, you know, there's this is numbers that you can easily find online. There's like 8 million tons of plastics that go into the ocean every year. About 150,000 tons of PET bottles are produced in Nigeria annually. And according to one study, which kind of just really blew my mind, is that 91% of plastics that are ever produced are not recycled. So since plastics have been produced, less than 10% has ever made it to be recycled. So the next slide, please. So the idea for recyclers was, you know, coming up with a way that people in communities, because we found out, and this is something I found out in the class, that 70%, 77% of people in countries like Nigeria live in slums, especially people that live in the cities. And when people live in these kinds of environments, there's a lot of waste that is lying around. Whenever it rains, and because they don't have reliable methods of waste collection, they just dump the waste in the drainage. When it rains, it becomes a problem because there are community floods. There's problem with malaria, and then a lot of times, whenever their houses their community floods, it goes into their house, and then they're not able to go to work, and that affects productivity because they're not able to go and make money for the day. So the idea for recyclers was, how do you create something where people in the communities are able to make money from trash? Because we know that this trash has a value. So that was the idea. And when we first started, it was very much like we didn't know what we were doing, but we just thought, what, this is interesting. So there's a process, when you're trying to, I think, solve a problem. The way we did it, there's actually a book I read. I'm going to try and remember the name of that book. But that book, and I think the previous speaker mentioned it. It's called about the MVP, minimum viable product. So figuring out, okay, what is the most discrete or smallest version of the solution that you're trying to introduce. But before you can even decide that something is a problem, you have to carry out your research, talk to people that are being affected, and then decide. You do your numbers and see that this is actually a problem. And we did that for WeCycler. So we actually came to Nigeria in January of 2012. We went to communities, we did focus groups, we spoke to people. We had an event. I remember so that was during the subsidy riots. So that was when Goodluck Jonathan's government decided to remove the subsidy. And so I landed in Lagos. And then the following day when I landed, they started riots. There was nothing going on. We couldn't move around. And I had lived in America for 13 years. So the idea was that we will have an event in the communities that weekend, and the communities will be told that, okay, we'll come during 1 week after, and please bring your trash that you have used for that week to this event. And the more trash you bring, the more things you can win, because it was like a raffle draw. But then you find out that because of the riots, we couldn't move around. There was no transport, there was no traffic, so we were scared that will we be able to have an event? you know, don't these people need to have a notice that there's an event coming up before they can, so that they can plan themselves? So me, I was like, we didn't know how Nigeria works. So we're just thinking, maybe we should cancel this event. But because we didn't have much money, we had spent all our money. So we just said, you know what, even if nobody comes, let's just even have this event. So thankfully, the subsidy was the riots were cancelled a day before the slated event, which was on Saturday. So the first event was 10 o'clock on Saturday in Ibutemeta. So we got there at 10 o'clock, and I was like, God, we are in trouble. No, there's nothing, people are not going to come. They don't have, they've not been told, they won't show up. And literally, so we started playing music. And as people are walking past, they ask, oh, what's going on here? They'll say, oh yes, just bring your trash and you get a raffle ticket, and here we have drinks, we have things for you. Literally within 5 minutes, they'll go outside, pick trash from the streets, come back, and they are in the event. So basically, like, we didn't have anything to be worried about because there was enough trash, there was enough flexibility. People came, and it was actually it was a success. So we saw a lot of trash, and we asked people, and I think like the major thing that made me decide to continue working on recyclers was we're talking to some children, and there was a young boy, and we're saying, okay, when you think about trash, how do you feel? And this boy said he feels sad. And I was like, why would a small child feel sad when they're thinking about trash? And he said, because in his compound, everybody's always fighting that this is your trash, this is my waste, this is my waste. Like, his parents are always fighting with the neighbor. So he doesn't like trash because he's very sad about it. So I actually was very touched, and I said, okay, you know what, let's go back and figure out what to do around this. So we went back and we're able to raise money. So please, next slide. So I'll just walk you through like how we did the money raising. So like I mentioned, no, okay, before I do that, sorry. So before I do that, then there's some things that you have to think about, because as a business, for you to be an investable business, you have to have a structure. There has to be some, like, a checklist. So I kind of thought about, what do you need to have as an eco business? The first thing, obvious, mission. What is the reason that you're doing this business? What are you trying to solve? What is the problem you're trying to solve? You should be able to explain this in one sentence, what it is, and it should be clear. Even if it's a new thing, even if it's something that has never been done before, you should be able to describe it. Second thing is, you should have a story. And I'm going to talk about that a bit later. But when I say story, I mean, like, when you're figuring out, talking about your solution, you should be able to say, okay, for instance, there's a person in Lagos or Abuja or wherever that has this problem, and my solution is going to solve this problem. So you should be able to actually put it in real terms, to explain. Then the next thing is product. What are you producing? What is the thing? So for me, when I was creating recyclers, the product was a system for collecting trash using cargo bicycles and taking advantage of technology using an SMS platform. So you have to have a product. And then everything, depending on the kind of business you have. So you may be an NGO, you may be a social business. You have to have a business model. So when I say business model, how do you make money? How does money enter into your account? As a business, for your business to run, you have to pay salary. For you to pay salary, money must be in your account. So as an NGO, the business model for NGO is raising grants. But for social business, which is what I think we're focusing on here, for eco businesses, the business model is, you're selling a product, you're getting corporate partnerships, something is making people pay you. What is that? So that's your business model. Then the next thing is your team. So you cannot do it alone. So if you think you can, you cannot. You need a team. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be, I mean, initially you can do it alone. Don't be panicking if you are the only person in the business. I'm not trying to scare you. But what I mean is that as you become bigger, as you begin to attract partners, as you begin to make money, you need to start employing people. So you need to start thinking about your team. And sometimes, even though you are small, you should have a plan already in place. So don't think, oh, it's too early for me to think about that, I'm not even making any money. No, you have to start thinking about that so that when it's time, you will move into the next stage. Then the most important thing, I think, is structure and governance. So, like, you don't need to have all of this done yet, but you should start thinking about it. Like, taxes, as much as you can, start paying taxes, because that's how partners, that's what they use to evaluate you. That's how they see you. So if they see, oh, this person is actually filing their returns annually, even though they're not making much money, they're filing their returns, they're paying whatever little taxes. Even if they're not paying taxes, they're filing zero on the tax. Like, those things actually are important. They matter. Your paperwork. When I say paperwork, I mean, do you have all the documents, like your CAC? Is it done? Like, you have to write, what is the structure that you have registered or incorporated as, does that match what it is that you are saying you are? So maybe, for instance, you are saying you are a company, a limited, but when they look at your paperwork, it's actually enterprise. So there should be some time spent on like tidying up paperwork because it's very important. Then permits, do you have the permits? There's a lot of when you start looking at VC funding, start looking at bigger funding, they ask you for, okay, do you have your LOMA? For instance, in Lagos State, do you have your LOMA registration? Do you have your all the, I'm not up to date with the latest permits in the waste sector, but do you have all the permits that are needed for you to work in this space? If there is no permit needed, does the government know about you? Does the regulator know about you? So it's just like, even if they are not charging, just at least they are aware of you. That's actually good, because that actually reduces the risk in the eyes of the investor, because they know that your business is not an illegal business. It's not a business that, and initially, don't be worried if you are still starting up. This might seem like a lot. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to have everything thought out or done, but just kind of start, write it down somewhere. If you don't have the chance to do it yet, at least let it be on your list. Okay, I'm going to work on this, so that you're not um finding out later or becoming surprised or met unawares, or you have an answer. So even if somebody asks you, what about this? Have you thought about that? You say, yes, I thought about it. I've not been able to do it yet, but this is my plan. It's always good to have a plan, even if you don't have a solution yet, because it makes you look like you're organized and you're thinking about things. So don't worry if everything is not yet done, but at least know what you need to do. And the last one is partnerships. What partnerships do you have? What partnerships do you need to have? So for Recyclers, one of the major partnerships that we had to have was with FMCGs. So that's fast moving consumer good companies like Unilever, like Coca-Cola. So starting to we had to approach these companies, pitch them about us, and get them to partner with us. So I will stop there for that. So the next one I want to talk about is, I want to talk a little bit more about the business model. So this picture is a picture of the first recycle. So when we before we came to Nigeria, we had we're in an accelerator. I wanted to show people what the recycle will look like, and we didn't really have any any tools or anything. So we just got a bicycle, put something at the back, and put a trash can. So what I'm trying to show with this picture is that your solution doesn't have to be perfect at the beginning. It's okay if it's not, if it's like something like this, if it's just a cobbled together solution, that is fine. You have to then work on refining it over time till you get it right. So, like I said, don't be worried if it's not perfect. Over time, you will get it right. Because there's a period, I think, in business, especially in eco business, where you have to think about what we are working on, because a lot of things that we are doing do not exist yet. So there is, I think, a time for experimentation, for creating solutions. But while we are doing that, we need to have our eye on the prize. How are we going to make this money? How? So for recyclers, we actually had an Excel spreadsheet where the input of the Excel spreadsheet was like, literally, I'm not even exaggerating, it was like 5 sheets. We spent weeks building this sheet. And it's like this spreadsheet. Initially, it was like, okay, to the level of saying, okay, we think, okay, in Lagos, there are, at that point, it was 15 million people in Lagos. Each household in Lagos is going to generate 0.5 kilograms of waste. We now extrapolated that into the number of communities that we thought we were going to be in. We extrapolated that into the number of, the amount of waste we could collect on a day-to-day basis. And then even looked at, okay, how much are we making per kilogram, per ton? And then, at the end of it, we now say, okay, let's assume we have this number of staff that we're going to have when we are big. All these inputs, like the waste that we're collecting now, how much the money we are making from this waste, is it going to get us to that point? So you need to have something that shows some way of crunching your numbers, that shows where you are right now, shows what is the reality on ground. And then there's also something where this is where you are. This is what you are going to be telling your investor. You're telling your investors that, okay, now you are seeing me, I'm still here, or I don't have the money, I'm still a small company. But if you give me this money, in 5 years' time, you're going to make $1 million from me. And this is how. The reason why it's important for you to have visibility on your numbers is that enables you to adjust your business model. So for me at Recyclers, being able to see that, okay, we are selling loose, because initially when we collected waste, we didn't have any money. So we couldn't buy any machines. So as we were collecting the plastics, we were selling it to a company called Alchem. And Alchem at that point was buying loose plastics. I think it was 30 naira per kilogram. By the time I calculated that, and the first time we sold, we made 25,000 naira. And the waste was collected over a period of like 6 weeks. And now I looked at my staff salary, everything. This 25K is definitely not enough to pay this.
Mhm.
So I now had to think, okay, so how much more do I have to collect? What are the opportunities? What other ways does Alchem buy waste? So they told me, you know what? If you want to make more money from us, you need to do something called baling. Baling is that you take the waste that you have collected, you remove the plastics, whatever it is, and then you sell it to us. And you can actually make more money. So that's what I mean by you're crunching the numbers. You're actually refining it and figuring out how to get to the promised land. Test your assumptions, identify all your revenue streams. As an eco business, like the previous speaker said, it's not only about, sales. You can actually make money from fulfilling certain requirements of other companies. So what are all your revenue streams? And then you iterate until it is perfect, or at least as close as possible to perfect. Next slide, please. So I have 2 more slides in case people are getting antsy. So we're almost done. So choose investors wisely. Recyclers experience. I always say that, look, you investment, partnership, business, it's all about making sure that, in my opinion, I may be wrong, but in my opinion, before you go into a partnership, before you go into a business with somebody, ask yourself, if I'm with this person for 10 years, 15 years, and we are still working together, can I still stand this person? Or does this person annoy? It's like a marriage. So if you see an investor, even though you need money and you're desperate, if you do not like the values of that investor, if you don't think you and the investor are going to align, it is very important for you not to take money from that person, because it's critical that whoever you partner with, whoever you accept investment from, is somebody whose values align with yours, so that when you're working together, you can actually build something out of the partnership. So the first way of getting money, friends and family. So that is the first investment. So a lot of people start a business and they think, oh, I'm going to go and get money from a VC. I'm going to get money from Y Combinator, for instance. But really and truly, the first people that are going to give you money are your friends and family. So use that, tap on that, ask for money. The next one, and sometimes it's not only cash. Some of it is connections, network. Some of it is in kind. Maybe they're giving you computer that you need. They're giving you their car to use. Those kinds of things. It actually adds value. And you can actually quantify that when you're talking to investors. The next one is crowdfunding, like the previous speaker mentioned. Our first funding, we raised $3,000 when we were coming to start Recyclers, and that was just going online, sharing our story. Of course, we sent it to all our family. So basically, that was our friends and family that we raised money from them using crowdfunding. So we said, okay, we need money, pay on this link, and we were able to raise $3,000. Then of course, the next way is grants. For eco businesses, there's a lot of grants out there. Like, you have to spend that time. And like the previous speaker said, you don't, it's actually, you have to sit down and think about the answers that you're writing. Don't just write something and say, at least I've submitted, okay, I'm going to get it. No, you're competing with people. You have to spend time, make sure you have good answers, your English is correct, there's no mistakes, and that it's a competitive application. So once you do that, make sure you do your research. Google like crazy and apply for everything. So I say my terminology here is spray and pray. Throw it out there and pray that at least one or two will catch. And then when you win something, it may not even be money, it may not be anything. Let's say, for instance, XYZ Bank gives you 500,000 naira, for instance. You can use that and say, you know what, I have gotten a partnership with blah, blah, blah bank. And now, so when you talk about achievement, don't just say, oh, I'm just here. Mention your partnerships. And sometimes, and somebody gave me this idea. The first partnership we ever got was 200,000 naira worth of Coke products from Coke. Because I went to Coke and I pitched them, and they didn't give us any money, but they said, you know what, we'll give you Coke products. But guess what? On my next application that I was writing, partners, I put Coke because Coke has given me Coke products, so they're a partner, and we had a picture together in our event. So when people were looking at my proposal and they saw Coca-Cola, they felt like, this is there's something called credibility we have to build. So you can start small, and you need to start building credibility. Start using names, partnerships, so that as you are going along, your company is even looking bigger than it actually is. Then another one is angel investors. So, like I always say, if you do not gel with that person, don't collect the person's money. The person has to actually win you have to actually, you are in the driver's seat. It's not you begging for money. The person has to convince you that, yes, you are the right partner, you are the right investor. Another one that we can also look at is government funding. So Recyclers actually got funding from the government. When we started, we got Loma actually gave us money to build 5 recycles. Then, and that, we branded it, we wrote partnership Loma. So hopefully, we have more and more opportunities from government to give, even if it's a small grant or small support to kickstart. Then also loans. So it doesn't have to be big money. So for us, like one of our biggest funding initially was a line of credit that we got from Zenith Bank, and it was really like 300,000 naira of credits, from our bank, and that helped us to cover salary initially. So it's good to have a good bank that you have a partnership with, and you approach them like when you need help, ask them, what can you do for me? How can you? So when you're choosing your bank, go with a bank that actually will support you and give you that grace. Then another one I did not include, I just remembered now, is from um your buyers, whoever you're selling products to. They can actually offer you investment. So they can say, okay, you know what, for recyclers, we spoke to our Alchem, and they gave us money upfront and said, you know what, you guys use this money to go and collect waste, and we'll collect that from you. But another way is maybe even you could get a company that invests in you because they like what you're doing. Those are opportunities that are available. Then venture capitalists as well. Private equity, I put a star beside that because that's not really relevant, but it's something that you should be aware of. As you grow bigger, private equity is also another opportunity. The same goes for green investment funds because quite a bit of them, they want you to be a bit bigger. So that one may not be an opportunity yet. Then strategic partnerships. Which company are you scratching an itch for? Who are you helping? Who is your product helping, directly or indirectly? If you have a list of those companies, you need to approach them and get them to support you. So some things that you have to think about, your investor motivations. What are they, like I said, what is their timeline for the investment? What is their style? Are they going to tell you to do something ridiculous? If that's the case, don't even bother. It's not worth it because it's not going to work out. Then what is your goal for the business? Some people don't want to stay for a long time, and people want to stay for a long time. So does it match? And also your structure of the business. Do you want to do an NGO? Do you want to do social? Those are all going to be important as you are figuring out the investment. Then the final one, which I think is the most important one, is the story. Next slide, please. You need to tell a good story. You need to be able to see, like I said, who are you supporting? So for recyclers, this is a woman we call Iya Daniel. So Iya Daniel is a woman that lives in Lagos. Before she started working with recyclers, she was making like 30,000 naira or something like that. And then after a couple of months, she made up, I think almost, I don't want to give you the wrong numbers, but I think at least ₦1 million or something like that. It was a lot of money, Sha. And that just shows you, like those are the kind of people that we want to empower. So you should be able to tell a story that is a good story. That, okay, my business, once it's doing well, there's a particular person. We call that a persona. In marketing, it's called a persona. This is the kind of person that is going to benefit from my business. When you're telling stories like the previous speaker mentioned, when you're giving your elevator pitch, and like I always tell people, like people are always scared to share their idea. It's a Nigerian thing where we always think, oh, they're going to steal my idea. If I told you how many people, when I was telling about recyclers, that says, oh, I had this idea. Like, it doesn't matter if anybody hears your idea. The difference is who is going to be able to execute. Execution is the key. So you need to, and how are people going to know? Like, closed mouths do not get fed. How are people going to help you? How are people going to invest in you if they don't know your idea? So every single person you meet that knows you, your friends, families, foes, they need to know what you're doing. They need to know your business, because you don't know who is going to tell somebody that is going to help your business or invest in your business. So your elevator pitch, you should be able to say it not only in an elevator. Elevator pitch is not for elevator alone. No. Elevator pitch is for if you are in the supermarket and you bump into your classmate from high school. That's elevator. You need to tell them what you're doing. When you're picking up your younger sister from school and the teacher is asking you, what are you doing? You got to tell them your elevator pitch. Everybody needs to know what you're doing, and you have to have it down to a science. It's very important. So I'll stop there. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Ma. That was really, really a great, insight on how we can position our business, how we can get access to finance, and in fact, giving us a background story of Recycler means so much to me personally, and I believe the members of EBN too are learning, because at the end of the day, the pictures and the goal is very, driven, and I believe that somebody here is inspired today, and we will not just relearn that, oh, we're just doing this upcycling thing, this sustainability thing just because of the money, but also who are we inspiring, who are we impacting, who are we changing their lives and all of that. Thank you very much, Ma. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, if that's okay, but I would like to ask for your permission, Ma. Can this document be shared to the members after today's webinar?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Ma. So it's time for our question and answer. If we have questions to ask, can we kindly see our hands? We can raise our hands. This is the part where we ask our questions. Question and answers, guys. Do we have any questions for either Mrs. Belikis or Mrs. Ife? I have one hand up. Who else has a question? I have a question too, so let me just raise my hand too. So who else has question? Okay. All right. So we have 3 ends. All right. Okay. So I don't want to take any longer. I don't know. Is it a Mrs. or a Mr. The Richard, or I'm so sorry. I'm going to unmute you now, so you can ask your question, sir. Thank you very much. Kindly let us know who the question is directed to. So from there, so you can ask your question. Richmond, you can please go ahead. Thank you. Mr. Richmond, can you hear me, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I would like to find out what the difference between a limited by guarantee and a limited by liability company is when you're registering an eco business. And also, can an eco business in upcycling of waste to eco furniture and interior register as a limited by guarantee company? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes. And also, what is the tax information around such company? And so, if I'm to ask, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to have all the questions so the guests can have their answers to them at the same time. Thank you very much. So, um, Mrs. Olatunji Abosede. Mrs. Olatunji, you can unmute for your question. Please let your question be directed to like who you want the answers to be from. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon. Thanks so much for this impactful seminar this afternoon. I want to ask Ms. Blakis that aside from eco business in Lagos, can it also hold in Ogun State? As in, I'm residing in Ogun State. Can it also hold in Ogun State?
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. So, Mrs. Splendor, your mic is unmuted, so please kindly ask your question. Mrs. Splendor. Before Ms. Splendor asks her question, for other questionings, please kindly send me a direct message on WhatsApp. Like we normally do, I'm going to relay your questions to the guest and give you your feedback. Thank you very much. So, Mrs. Splendor, are you there?
Yes, I'm here now. Good afternoon,
All right.
everybody. Thanks so
Good
much,
afternoon.
Ms. Keys and Mrs. Ife for the insightful session. My question, however, is directed to Mrs. Ife, but Mrs. Bilkis can also share the insights that she has. So I'm wondering how a sustainable art company, we do decor and we recycle plastics to create decorations and imported decor. So I was wondering if there's a platform for businesses like mine to showcase this product, probably at events that are about circular economy. Is there a way that we can incorporate it so that we see firsthand what the sustainable arts sector is coming up with? I don't know if there's any current thing like that at the moment. So I would like to know how we can leverage such opportunities, or if possible, create like an event or an exhibition for sustainable fashion brands and sustainable art brands to come showcase their products, and for investors to come around and invest, and for also people to be inspired on what can be done with waste. Thank you very much.
So,
Hello.
thank you. Yeah. Mr. Toyin, please can you ask your question? And the last question will be from Oluwa Timileyin. So, Mr. Toyin, kindly ask your question. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on this platform and to listen to this, be part of this great event. My question is like a form of, I just need maybe counsel or partnership or idea that can work. What we are into, we we provide hydration stations to homes, and we have been in it for the past 10 years. When we install, We install the station, purify the water at homes. We have done it in Lekki, we have done it in various places even where the water is bad, and they have been drinking their water and also use that same water to cook. We have been in it for the past 10 years, and our experience is this. We found out that people are yet to, to buy into it. It's like there's a confidence crisis. They rely on their bottled water. In fact, a particular customer, we have to test the juice water side by side before he got it. So anyway, I just want to see the possibility from Mrs. Biliki's idea. He has started from scratch. He has started from scratch. Try this, try that. Now we have the product. We are not even looking for money. We are just looking for markets. And we have the over 10 years experience. We have testimonials that the thing is working. We have had people that had, even in Oniru, the city of David, we install for them there, is working. For years, they are enjoying it, they are not buying water. And from our eco angle, each machine we install for a home, we prevent that home, we save 600,000 naira from buying water. And that particular home, we found out that a home generates about 6,000 units of single-use plastic. So each machine removes 6,000 used plastic, a single use, from our ecosystem. And we have been able to find out that 5,000 rather, used plastic is equivalent to about 311 tons of carbon credit. So each our machine is removing 5,000 single use from the ecosystem and about 311 tons of carbon carbon footprint. So we have the product. How can the idea is there and it's solving the problem and people are enjoying it, people are experiencing it, but we are not making hero that we expected. That's it. I just need an idea. I need counsel. Thank you.
So, Mr. Timilane, kindly make your question brief. Thank you. This will be the last question. So, for those that all have questions to ask, kindly send me a DM via WhatsApp. I'm going to get back to you on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Oluwa Timilane. You can ask your question now. Thank you. Mr. Timilane, are you there?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my question goes to Mrs. Balke, and it's not too much. In terms of sustainability, I heard this morning from someone in the UK. They said the waste management people over there are now using AI as a tool, and it's quite interesting in some parts, and at the same time challenging in terms of human effort. And my question is just, what technology are we using to achieve sustainability, and how do we stay at the forefront of environmental innovations? And again, in Lagos, I think Ibeju Lekki side, that Lekki Filtration Zone, we were there at some point through the SYA people, and we noticed there's a particular village there that needs they lack water. I think they lack adequate water, and they didn't have electricity for like many years, and they actually have so maybe sort of a boat and something that helped them in their fishery skills or something, what they do there to hand. And just to know what the kind of sensitization, how do we collaborate, how do we network ourselves so that our solution can be out there, what we are providing can this there is a particular problem we are providing solution to. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much to everybody that has asked their questions. So for those that have their questions to ask that won't be attended to right now, please kindly send me a DM. I'm going to give you feedback on that. Thank you very much. So Miss Bali Case, would you like to go first on
Oh, yeah,
the
sure.
question? All right, ma'am.
So if I miss any, please, can you let me know? So the first one I think that was for me is the one about the sustainable design and putting together like an event. I think that was
Yes,
one.
yes.
Yes, so that I would say that if you need to do your I guess look at the market and see if anybody is doing anything similar, and if not, then that's an opportunity because it shows that there's a gap. Because if you've thought about this, that means that there is a market. It might be a niche, but there's an opportunity. Then do your research and see if it has been done in other countries, and even if it's going to be, you're going to kind of customize it to work in Nigeria, you can do that. I think it's a very good idea. Now, the next step is how do you raise money for this? So you can actually approach companies to, for instance, banks to see if they want to support this. Another way I think will be actually working with maybe event planners, event companies, and seeing how if you can collaborate with them to do something different. And you really there's nothing wrong with starting small. So you can actually come up with an idea like an MVP. Maybe you say, okay, we're going to do it online, or we're going to showcase a particular aspect and see how it's received. Then get people's feedback. How would you like this to work? I think once you're able to do that and you're able to iterate, come up with partnerships, and put together, a group of people that can give you net access to different networks. I think it's a very good idea and it's something that can work. Then the other question was around the water. How do you market it and make it because it's a very good product. It sounds amazing. I think one of the things is to look at, and I think something that we all need to do is look at, okay, who are my customers? Who is this product going to be relevant to? So that means who can afford it? If they and people that can afford it, how are they paying for it? In Nigeria, for instance, it's actually, just to give you an example, it makes a lot of sense now because of the way our electricity costs are. It makes a lot of sense to use solar. But the solar market has not yet really taken up, but it will. And I think one of the main reasons for it not taking up in, the general mass market is access to funding. Maybe people don't, first of all, they're not aware, and then there's no funding. So I think you can actually take that approach and say, okay, for instance, now maybe it's churches, maybe it's hotels. Are they the ones that are going to be the biggest, the first? There's something called Crossing the Chasm. There's a book called Crossing the Chasm, and it talked about when you are producing a new product, who are your first adopters? Then how do you cross it to become a mass market? So your first adopter was City of David because they saw the value. They probably know you and they see you as someone that they can trust. Do they know, are there other churches, other organizations that they are connected to that they can introduce you to? Because one of the good ways I think is referrals. That's a good start. Then can you use their name, use their logo in your promotional materials? Are there any other like similar sectors that you can actually tap into? So I'm thinking in my mind, hotels, they are the ones that are looking at that. And then they can even say, you can say, look, if you are a hotel that you want to actually appeal to people that are like the modern hotel tourists, you can say, look, you're an eco hotel. So for instance, there's a hotel called Jara in Eleko Beach, I think, or Faraway. They use something similar and they talk about it on their website. So maybe you can actually use that as a way to market. Other areas is also maybe schools. So I'm sure you may have done all of this already, but I think that would be a good way to start. And then maybe working with banks, working with organizations that can provide funding so that, maybe estates can then, also adopt. Then somebody else mentioned, I was asking if recyclers is or something eco business is relevant in Ogun State. It is actually. It's relevant anywhere that there's a lot of people. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know if I missed any other question.
There was also a question that was asked if all of this opportunity can be in Ogun State. One of the members from Ogun State was mentioning that. So maybe if there's any way you can give an answer to that. Probably we recycler have maybe a section going on there in Ogun State, how we gather plastic there. So you can share more light
Yes.
to that, ma'am.
Yes, so another way, actually, so WeCyclers has a franchise program where people can actually partner with them. They select franchisees, they give them training, and then they give them support to start business. So if you are interested, you can actually contact them, and they do it, in all over Nigeria. So there are opportunities for that.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. So Miss Ife Olua.
Okay, thank you
Hello.
for the question. I noted them down. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ma, we can.
Okay, so I noted the questions down. The first person asked limited by guarantee. What's the difference between limited by guarantee and limited liability? So limited by guarantee is typically for NGOs, non-profit organizations, while limited liability is for profit-making enterprises. Because it also majorly means that when you are not just registering as NGO, if it's just limited by guarantee, you are saying that if the NGO or if the non-profit organization enters into debt, you guarantee you and the guarantees on that incorporation are guaranteeing that you'll be the one to be at that liability. So while the liability works majorly for profit-making enterprise, the guarantee works for the NGO. I think that might have answered your questions. And there were things around what are is can interior almost any enterprise on within any industry can register as limited guarantee, but it's majorly for associations, networks, and the likes of that do take up limited guarantee oftentimes. And are there tax information around your eco furniture business? Yes, which I am not familiar with, but I believe that if you approach FIRS or if you also try to look this up by doing your research electronically, you should be able to get some information online. The second question, how a sustainable art company can have platform to showcase, like Ms. Baliki said, putting yourself out there and working with organizations that can be partner with you, like banks. So for example, you can decide to use your art to create a First Bank logo and tell them that you want to build something that is like their logo monumentally made from waste and very artistic, placed in front of their headquarters. That in itself is showcasing you um, at that level, and that kind of partnership really helps you to grow. And also being part of trying to apply for certain accelerator programs. So what accelerator programs do is they'll train you, they'll give you some teachings and learnings and mentors, but they will still open you up to exhibitions. So there'll be art exhibition in South Africa. They'll tell you, we need you to represent Nigeria, or you and some other team to represent women-led climate waste management business in this kind of exhibition. So you just making sure that you're part of applying for accelerators and being part of them would also help. And then there are different events. I think one just concluded in Lagos, the Climate Action Africa Forum, and one in South Africa, African Green Economy Summit. There are different events online, especially when it comes to climate change, that are beginning to roll out. At least we can say pertaining to climate change can be up to 10, and I mean major high level summits that happen yearly. So where do you see that you can come in? How do you source for financing to be able to, maybe people can fund your trip down to the place, then you be part of the exhibitors that will work there. There's Creative Carbon Summit. There are different summits that you can just make sure that you are in the know. So you keep yourself updated, getting this information online as much as possible. And I think those are the questions that relate to me. And there's another one of adoption of innovation, which Ms. Balikis also said, make your research on your early adopters and then now see how you can curate your communication, your message to get to them. Once your solution works for one, it really can work for the people within that target market. So how do you get recommendations? How do you get referrals to be able to get earn the trust or the trial from all this your target customers? So that majorly would help you. I think that has answered all the questions that I have. Thank you.
Thank, thank you very much, Mrs. Ife. Thank you very much, Mrs. Balikis, one more time. So right now, I would like to invite the special advisor, Mrs. Titilayo. I don't know if she's still here. Mrs. Titilayo.
Yes, I am.
All right, Ma.
I am.
So, well, I'd like to invite you for the closing remark. Thank you very
Okay.
much, ma'am.
I understand. I understand that we have just about 10 minutes to round off. I think it's a 2-hour program, and we definitely like to keep to time. So I want to quickly seize the opportunity to say absolutely huge thank you and appreciation towards Ifeoluwa for all that you have deposited. In fact, I even learned myself, of all of the things that you have said. I don't think that my teachings, my learnings, even from Harvard, could have given me so much in such a short time. So I really, really want to appreciate you. Thank you so much for pouring out and also just deep diving into areas that a lot of people would have ordinarily not been able to come across in the line of their businesses. And also to my wonderful Aburo, Bill Case, thank you so much. Even though you're far away, you still invested time to be part of us today and to share of your incredible story. There's nothing as indelible and as touching as a story that has been told that is a testimony. Thank you and well done on the work that you have done on WeCyclers. I want to thank the team of OCCE led by Tife. Wonderful job today. We have been really, really we have learned. I have been personally blessed in so many ways by the stories and the questions that have been answered. I want to give kudos to also the EBN network members. Thank you so much for being passionate about your work, about your business, and our desire and our prayer is that all of what you are investing in terms of time will reward you. It will come out, to be worth it at the end of the day. Thank you so much to everyone, and I'm signing out. I'm signing out now, and I'm just trying to crash in between the time for before the whole thing runs up. God bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Tife, over to you. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much to everyone who has taken our time today. Thank you very much, Mr. Titilayo, for the opportunity. So if we have any questions again, please send me a direct message and I'm going to give you guys feedback on it. See you next time. And please, next time that we are coming for this webinar, let's make we are spreading this news across to everybody, because imagine this so much knowledge just for us alone. Let's be able to spread this wing flying around us so that we have a lot of people learning and unlearning and seeing, several opportunities where we can, place our businesses for investment opportunity. So thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Mrs. Balikis, thank you so much. Mrs. Ife, thank you so much. So yeah, do have a great weekend. And guys, we have an IG Live coming on Thursday. Let's make sure to be a part of that too. And if you also want to be featured on our IG Live, you can also send me a DM. I will also give you guys feedback on that. Thank you very much. Do have a nice weekend. Bye, everyone. Thank you.